Hey everybody, welcome back. This is NYOA Round 5, the Ditch Banger at Greek Peak Ski Resorts. You can see I had a little bit of an issue with the camera this week. For some reason, the exposure was locked and all of the field sections or anything that was out in this bright sun is completely overexposed like this. I do go through, I cut out all of the stuff that's like this other than the start. And the woods turned out fine. It was just all of the field sections were messed up. You can see I stalled it there on the line. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get started and we'll cut ahead and look at some of the stuff that actually looks correct. Right off the start, I'm in about 4th place. I'm going to take this line off to the right, thinking I can make a move, but I just run out of space. I wasn't trying to run into him there. Those lines just came together a little quicker than I expected. Like I said, at this point I'm in 4th place. Pat Lane is out in the lead, followed by Cole Burlew, and then we have Dylan Willis right in front of me in 3rd place, and I'm in 4th at this point. It's still early in the race, but you can already tell the leaders have kind of pulled away a little bit, and I'm just trying to get up close to Dylan at this point so I can make a move if one of these alternate lines plays out. I think I was following him a little bit too close and not really keeping an eye out for the lines as good as I should have. I should have seen that inside line there. I was too focused on just running that speed to keep up with them, and I wasn't really searching for those other lines like I should have been doing. Right here is another good example of that. There's a couple lines that I do take that are different, but as we come up into this next section, there's a few more split lines, but I end up just following his path he takes instead of trying to find my own faster one. I'm still looking for those alternate lines, trying to make a move, and then up on the right, there's Pat Lane. Looks like he had an issue with his kill switch or something. But he got the quad fired up right after I was able to make the pass on him. So we all moved up a position, and now Pat is back into 4th place right behind me. So now it's really important that I really make this move on Dylan quick so I can try to open this gap up a little bit early on. This section here is extremely high speed. I mean, we're talking 4th, 5th gear wide open coming through some of this stuff. Dylan does pull off to the side and let me go by, so appreciate that. We're up into 2nd place at this point, but Pat Lane is right on my rear grab bar, so I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit, see if I can pull away, but he's not going to make it easy on me for sure. One thing I really liked about this track is it kind of had a mix of everything. You can see here we're kind of coming through a little bit more of a technical section, off camber, some ruts and roots coming out. But there was also some stuff that was just extremely high speed, wide open, run it as fast as you want to run. This first lap, I do take it a little bit more cautious coming through some of this high speed stuff coming up. Just because you never know if there's going to be a big kicker or a sudden turn when it's your first lap out there, right? After that, I kind of get the hang of it and know where the big bumps are and where it's pretty safe to run wide open. But for the first lap, just kind of being a little bit cautious. I'm in 2nd place, so it's not a terrible position. I know I can just kind of ride a little bit more conservative through some of this stuff, right? You can see there's a few little whoops here and there, but nothing too major. So after this first lap, we're really just going to hold it wide open coming through some of this stuff. This is probably the most talked about section of the track. They call it the Glades, and it's basically a long hill climb with just 100 different line choices you can take. And line choice is really key here. At this point, Pat Lane and I are kind of just drag racing up this thing. You can see him off to the left there. I'm on a stock motor. He's got a little bit of head work done and a higher compression piston, but I get the better line, the smoother line, which is able to allow me to kind of keep that lead. But I know he's right there, so I really have to pick up the pace at this point to try and pull a gap. So I'm really pushing and riding hard at this section of the race. Like I said, the camera settings were messed up for this round. The shutter was locked open, but you can see these conditions were kind of tricky in the woods because you have these really dark shadows from the heavy coverage from the trees, but then you also have that really bright sunlight coming through, and it just makes it difficult to read the terrain as you're coming through. Right, all those shadows and highlights make it difficult to see where the bumps are, where the holes and the whoops are, and it just makes it a little bit challenging to kind of read the terrain when you're actually going through some of this stuff at speed. At this point, I'm still pushing pretty hard, trying to open up that gap between myself and Pat, but I realize I'm kind of riding over my head. I'm starting to get arm pump a little bit, so I actually come out in this field section. I give him some room, I let him go by. I'm going to try to keep up with him, but I know that if I keep pushing like this the entire race, I'm going to run out of energy early. I need to just kind of ride on my own, settle into a good groove, and then start to pick things up as I get more comfortable. This was another new section of the track. Kind of fun, added a nice little tight technical part that we didn't have last year. So it was cool to have some of these new sections with really good dirt in here. Conditions for the day were pretty much perfect. There was a little bit of dust out in the fields, but I think you're going to have that pretty much no matter what. But other than that, the woods ended up being perfect throughout the day. Here's another one of these tricky technical off-camber sections. This one was a little bit higher speed, but still a lot of fun, right? You can see the roots really coming out, really soft dirt, and because it's off-camber, we're really starting to dig into it here. Also notice I have a couple riders coming up on me, so I will get over as soon as I get a chance here. I think that is Logan Ward from the College A class. He's out to an early lead, and he takes off. He's moving really good out there. I think I had a few more College A kids come past me, but we're back onto another one of these sections that's just flat and wide, and you can just really rip on. I don't really mind running some of these high-speed sections. I know a lot of people would rather it be a little tighter and more technical, but I like getting a good bit of flow in there. It kind of gives you a break, get some air flowing, right, and just really rip on the track. So I enjoy sections like this, but I'm not afraid of some difficult technical terrain either. Up here on the left, you'll see Chris Borch sitting on the side of the track. He was trying to make a move in his class off in the high grass and ended up clipping a log. It ripped the whole front end of the quad off, right? All the left side stuff, all the front A-arm and everything was ripped right off the frame. So his day was ended early, but luckily he was all right, and I guess he never even flew off the quad when he crashed like that, so he was able to kind of stay on and didn't have any kind of an injury or anything like that, so that's good. Something happened earlier in this lap. I guess some ribbon was down in a different section, and some of the AA2 class got off of the main line and ended up kind of getting lost in the woods a little bit, but they did make their way back to the track, but they ended up behind me somehow, even though I never passed them. So you see up here, there's Kate Osborne. She's from the AA2 class, making moves coming up through. I'm pulling over, letting them by, but they're running a pretty decent pace, so I'm going to try to hang with them for as long as I can. Kate Osborne, she is a GNCC WXC pro, so she's definitely a fast rider, and I'm just going to try to hang with them for as long as I can. Because this race is held at a ski slope, one thing this track has no shortage of is off-camber sections. I mean, it's all on the side of the mountain, so unless you're going up or down, it's going to be off-camber. And this spot was no exception to that. It's very tricky, right? A lot of bumps and kind of loamy soil. But very off camber coming through here. And this is the kind of stuff that I think takes a lot of the energy away from you, right? You're trying to keep that quad planted on the side of the hill, keep it from sliding, so you're really squeezing with your knees. And this is the kind of stuff that can really take the energy out of you early in the race. Just as I start to really lose sight of Kate Osborne and the other rider that were up ahead of me, we actually start catching up to Cole Burlew, who's in my class. He's currently in second place. I'm in third. I see him up ahead, so I know, all right, there's another position. I just need to put on a charge and try to make the pass. But it doesn't take long for him to realize that I'm behind him. And as soon as he does, he throws that thing up into another gear and takes off. I'm giving it everything I have to stick up there with him, but he pretty much picks up the pace big time and really pulls ahead and opens that gap up again. One thing I really like about this track are all of the different line choices. You can see even in a section like this, there's always 2, maybe 3 lines that you can take coming through these sections. This part, I take not the best line off to the left. I probably should have stuck to the right, but I'm just trying out the different lines, seeing what works. I looked over my shoulder. I saw another rider coming up. I think that's Michael Williams from the AA2 class. I think he was one of those riders that got a little bit off track at that one section. But I let him by. I'm going to try to follow him and see if he can pull me up and maybe get that pass on Cole. But after Cole gets out of my sights, he's pretty much just going to pull away at least until the end of this first lap. Another thing I really liked about this track was the long lap times. You can see this first lap, we're 30 minutes in and we still haven't completed one lap. With these longer times, it just made for some really fun racing. It seemed like lappers were a lot less of an issue than at some of the other rounds. I think that was just due to the track being a little bit longer. We got a little more spread out, a little bit more time before we started to catch some of those last few rows. So we didn't run into as many lappers, and the race was just really long. I think my total time was right around 2 hours, which is perfect, right? That's exactly what I want to see when I come to these races, right? I don't want to be running for an hour and a half. An hour and 45 is usually pretty good, but I like to run closer to that 2-hour mark because that's what you're going to see at a national event, right? So it's good to get some experience running for a little bit longer to build that endurance up. So if you go to a GNCC or another longer event like that, you already have experience running for that longer amount of time. Here's another fun section. You can carry some good speed, but it was a little tighter than some of the other fast sections of the track. So you really had to keep an eye on your tires, make sure you didn't clip any of these trees, but you could really carry some good momentum through some of these sections. We have Michael Williams there again. Looks like he was having some kind of an issue. He was pulled over, checking something out. And I did look at the results. It looked like he only got 2 laps in. So I'm guessing something went wrong there. But we ended up going back and forth a few times during this race, so it was fun having a little bit of a battle out there, but it's a shame that something happened there maybe on the last lap that prevented him from finishing. Here's another one of these really fast sections of the track. Had good flow to it and actually has a couple jumps built in. Greek Peak does downhill mountain biking, so I'm not sure if this is one of their jump trails that they have that you can run, coming down the hill, or if this was just built specifically for the race. But either way, it was a really good addition to the track, and it was just a ton of fun getting that nice flow through the woods, while also having a few little kickers to jump off of in the woods. Now we're back to another one of these really technical sections. This was a pretty steep downhill, and right here it pretty much drops straight down into this creek bed. We come through a little bit of water, and then we have to go up this hill on all of this exposed rock. And we're dragging all that water out of the creek, and it's making that section really slick. I'm going to pull over and let Michael Williams pass. Again, he's from that AA2 class, and he's moving pretty good. Skipping ahead a little bit, and we're coming through another section. I'm going to pull over again and let Dylan Hagerman from the College A class by. He's got some good speed going, and we're coming up on the end of this first lap here soon. The camera doesn't really do a good job of showing how technical some of this stuff is. This stuff is really off camber, but on the camera it looks relatively flat. But if you were there, you know how steep some of this stuff was. Again, this is the last section before we finish up this lap. In first place after the first lap, we had Pat Lane. He had about a 1.5-minute lead over Cole Burlew, who was in second. I was about 30 seconds back from him in third place. And then in fourth, we have Dylan Willis, who was about a 1.5 minutes back from me. In fifth place, we had Johnny Minahan. And then in sixth place was Cody Marvin. I'm going to cross through this little mud puddle here, and then off to the left in the green shirt, that's my dad giving me the pit board, letting me know that I'm about 2 minutes behind the leader. So I'm going to try and put in a push and see if I can close that gap up during this lap. I start picking the pace up a little bit here on the second lap because I know I'm a little more comfortable with where the track is. I know a little bit better lines. I'm able to make a pass here on Dylan Hagerman. I kind of go way out there to find some smooth dirt, but it ends up working out. I think he was kind of letting me pass, but still just trying to push and keep that speed going to make up as much ground as I can. Right, losing 2 minutes on the first lap is definitely not ideal, but as long as you keep pushing, you know, anything can happen and you can definitely make some ground up. Up ahead, there's another split line. You can go left or right. I choose to go to the left, and it turns out to be a much smoother line. I mean, you can run this pretty much full speed, and right when the trails reconnect, I see Cole Burlew up ahead, so now I know I got to start, making moves. I can't let him run away again, right? I've got to get up close and try to make something happen early on here in this second lap. We're back up here to the glades again. He's going to take that smooth line, and I'm going to have to go out through some of the rougher stuff this time, making it a little bit more challenging to get through. And I take this center line. So far, so good. It's pretty smooth. But as I get up here, you can see it's starting to get a little choppy. I'm kind of searching line to line and just losing a little bit of time. I probably should have just kept going straight there and dealt with some of that chop. But, in the moment, mistakes happen, and you kind of take bad lines at times. I'm still right there with Cole, not quite close enough to make a pass, and right there I missed that line to the inside. That would have been a good move. So I know I need to kind of keep my eyes open now and look for some of those passing lines as they come up. He's still moving along at a really good pace, but I just need to stay right there as close as I possibly can, so that way if an opportunity comes up, I can take advantage of it. Right here, I'm just close enough. I see this inside line, I make a move for it, and it's just enough space to make that pass happen. I'm going to try and put in a push and see if I can run away with it, but he's running a really good pace, and he's going to hang on right there behind me. Here I make a quick mistake. I think this is the smoother line on the inside, but that main line was much quicker. Cole's able to blow right past me going down that main line. So now I'm going to dip off to the left looking for another smooth line. He has to brake pretty hard coming back onto the track, and I'm able to get that pass right back. It was a great battle going back and forth between Cole and I just had a really good time out there actually running with somebody during the race, right? It just makes it way more interesting when you're out there. You're not by yourself, right? You're kind of going back and forth. But at this point, I realized, all right, he's not going to, just fall off the pace. I need to really pick it up and build a gap. That way we don't just keep going back and forth. One of the things I also wanted to mention about this race is there was just so much stuff to do at the track other than the race. They had downhill mountain biking, which is, I spent a lot of time over the weekend doing that. They also had a water park. There's a lake nearby that you can swim at. There's a mountain coaster you can go down. There's just all types of things that you can do at the track other than race. So it was fun spending the weekend there. Normally, we're just kind of hanging out in the camper during the weekend, maybe walking a little bit of the track. But this time, it was a lot of activities, moving around, doing a lot of stuff. So I was trying to conserve a little bit of energy during the race because I was worried that, I might be more tired than usual coming into this race than I normally am. But honestly, it didn't really affect me as much as I thought it might. And overall, it all still kind of worked out. Like I said before, some of these sections were just wicked off camber. Right now it's not too bad, but as we come up this hill, it's just rough and totally off camber. We're hitting these roots and it's wanting to just make the quad slide down the hill. And then you have to turn back in here. It's just really off camber, makes it difficult to keep that quad where you want it to go without it sliding down the side of the hill. Right after the 8-mile marker, we come through and we hit probably the most whooped out section of the track. This was pretty fun. It took a lot of energy, but the whoops were deep and it was just a lot of fun trying to skim through them. And you could carry a decent bit of speed through here, but you had to really focus on keeping that quad level. If you dropped the back end too much, it would definitely throw the front down. So if you could just focus on keeping the quad nice and level, absorbing all the impact with your legs, you can hammer down through there pretty good. Coming through here, I hit this big tree root and it grabs the rear tire and it almost throws me up over the bars, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that had that same problem there. And in this section, if you could stick up towards this inside through some of those roots, I felt like it was actually quicker than taking that outside smoother line. It did take a little bit more energy, but I thought overall staying tighter on that corner was a little bit quicker. As we come up to this next corner, we actually got some track workers, telling you to slow down because it looks like there's some kind of big wooden platform there. I don't know if that's from zip lining or if that's just like a viewing place that they have. But yeah, they didn't want anybody running into it. Here I'm just stopping, getting a quick splash of water to get me cooled down a little bit. But then just getting right back out there and trying to flow a little bit for the rest of the lap. We're an hour and 17 minutes in here and we're finally getting to the end of the second lap, right? Like I said, these are some extremely long laps compared to other races, right? 3 laps and finishing almost exactly at 2 hours is a pretty long lap. But at the end of this lap here, Pat Lane is going to be in first. He's got about a 2-minute lead over me. I'm in second. Cole Burlew is in third. He's about a minute back from me. Then in fourth place, we have Johnny Minahan. He's about 3.5 minutes back. And then fifth place is Dylan Willis, and sixth place is Cody Marvin. This next shot is a little bit overexposed, but I did want to leave it in because it just shows our nice smooth pit stop that we had. I come into the pits here, get off the track, and I'm able to stop, take a quick splash of fuel, get a little bit of water, and then get back out there. I think total the pit stop was maybe around 10 seconds, so a pretty good stop, and I'm glad I did make the stop. So Pat Lane was having some issues. He stopped for fuel on the second lap because he was actually having issues, right? He was drinking through the gas out there and was running low on the second lap. He only brought a gallon with him, so he knew it was going to be a struggle to make it through the entire last lap with just that gallon of fuel. But he was able to get back out there on the second lap and then had a little bit more trouble towards the end of the third lap. At this point, I'm just trying to focus on this battle with Josh Warhol. I think he got past me while I was making that pit stop. He's moving a pretty good pace, so I'm going to try and see if I can either get up there with him and make the pass, or just follow him and run this pace for a while. We end up running together for a while, and again, we're going to come through the same little mud pit, and my dad's off to the left giving me the pit board. Same thing, right? He's saying Pat is about 2 minutes ahead of me still. So even though I was pushing on that last lap, I didn't really make up much ground. So I'm just going to try to flow and hit my marks, try not to fade on this last lap, and see if I can keep the speed up until we get through to the finish line. But like I said, we have a really long lap ahead of us, so it's not like I can just start pushing right now and put on a last lap charge. I have to kind of conserve my energy because I have over 30 minutes left of racing left. Come up on a little bit of a bottleneck, but it's really no issue. Just go a little off track and I'm able to get around it without any problems. Nothing too crazy here, but you can start to see that the track is really starting to get polished off. It's starting to get a good shine to it, which means that all of that good grippy dirt is pretty much pushed off the side of the track, and we're left with a really hard packed slick surface, which can be difficult for traction. So when you hit all of these hills, it's really important to keep that momentum up, because if you're slowing down, you're going to have to try to build speed on the uphills, and when there's very little traction, that's just really difficult, if not impossible to do. So momentum is key when you start to get in these conditions with a really hard packed slick base to the track. One of the issues with these longer races is I always tend to fade during the last lap and kind of fall off my lap times. So my plan for this one was just to flow, try to keep that pace up while conserving energy, right? Just taking it not easy, but really hitting my marks and just flowing through the woods to conserve that energy and putting on maybe a last half of the last lap charge to keep my lap time pretty similar. I'm counting on maybe Pat fading off towards the end or making some kind of a mistake, but if I can keep my lap time pretty consistent, I might be able to make up some of that time that I had lost early in the race. Like I said before, those longer laps meant that lappers weren't really an issue. See, we have him going off to the right, there's another line, I'm able to make the pass with no problems. It just was a benefit of those longer lap times being a little bit more spread out and having all of these alternate lines out in the woods. You can actually see that towards the end of the race, some of the clouds were rolling in and we started to get some pretty dark shadows in the woods, making it difficult to see, right? And kind of the opposite of the beginning of the race. In the beginning, we had an issue with those really bright beams of light coming through with the dark shadows. Now it's just dark shadows everywhere. Kind of giving me flashbacks from last year during this race. In the second half, it just downpoured. We had storms roll in. It was extremely dark and it was downpouring the whole time. Luckily, no rain this year, but we did have some clouds come in towards the end and darken it up a little bit, which actually made it nice. It kind of cooled it off. Got you out of that direct sunlight, making it a little bit easier to keep your body temperature down. As I'm going through editing the video, I'm trying to keep a little bit more of the race footage in for this one. I got some advice from Drew Campbell this weekend, and he said he thinks the video should be a little bit longer, a little less edited, and keep a little bit more of the racing in there along with the commentary. So I'm trying to make this one a little bit longer and not cut so much out of it. It is taking me a little longer to edit this one just because I had to cut out all of the sections that were totally overexposed due to the shutter being locked in the wrong position. I do think the woods footage came out pretty good this time. It's got a decent look to it, I think, so I may try to mess with some of the camera settings to get it looking a little bit better, but let me know what you think down in the comments, if the video should be longer or shorter, and what you think of what the footage looks like from this round. The camera's actually going to die before we get to the end of the race. I think that's just going to happen when the races are closer to 2 hours long. But in the last half mile of the track, Pat Lane ended up running out of gas again. He had to stop and get more fuel. I was able to make the pass and hold him off for the remainder of the lap, which led me to my first A-class win, so I'm pretty excited about that. Pat ends up finishing about 20 seconds behind me. And then in third is Cole Burlew, who was about 4 minutes back. And then in fourth is Johnny Minahan. He was about 4 minutes back from him. Fifth was Cody Marvin. And then in sixth was Dylan Willis. He only completed 2 laps, so hopefully he can get whatever issue fixed for the next one. But yeah, I'm excited to get my first class win. Obviously I would have liked to have been able to beat Pat straight up and not win due to him having issues, but again, that's kind of part of racing, so I'm excited to get the win, but I'm still going to try to put in some work, build a little bit of that speed so I can be more competitive with him till the end of the season. This is what the points are looking right now for our class. Pat Lane's in the lead. I'm in second. Dylan Willis in third. Johnny Minahan in fourth. Cole Burlew in fifth. Cody Marvin in sixth. Josh Adams in seventh. And Alec Matthews in eighth. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again at the next race.